Well, I can kind of say that I'm glad I'm here. I don't know about y'all. I'm glad I'm here too. Everybody, after the great rallies yesterday, I would say that energy was so positive. Because I'm glad you are here. I'm glad you are here. I want to share my love with you. I'm glad you are here. Yes, I'm glad you are here. I want to share my love with you. Oh, we are one, we are one, we are one, we are one, oh, we are one in the company of God. Oh, we are one, yes, we are one, we are one, we are one in the company of God. Well, I'm glad you are here. Yes, I'm glad you are here. I want to share my love with you. Yeah. Four ways of knowing of who I am and where you are. Inner life is growing through these ways of knowing. The four ways of knowing you were there and showing me what to do, and knowing these leads to love. Up for the giving and receiving, let's not forget forgetting. This knowledge leads to wisdom. The ways are thinking, intuiting, sensing, and feeling. Think it through. Where are you? This knowledge leads to wisdom. The four ways of knowing of where I am and who you are, guiding me where to go. And this I know. Intuiting the dream, sensing truth, feeling what they mean. Smooth like butter and sense like no other. The ways are thinking, intuiting, sensing, and feeling, and think it through. Where are you? This knowing leads to love. What I know as knowledge grows. The four ways of knowing who you are. Let's be the best so far.
That was great.
Y'all stayed awake, that's good. It's a mellow song. Well, that one just kind of popped out. And we'll talk about that in a minute. But let me put this away. I don't need you, guitar, for the rest of the day. The title of my talk, as I said, was The Four Ways of Knowing. But let's start with a prayer, since we didn't do one a minute ago anyway. An affirmative prayer would be nice to get us centered. I affirm I have the wisdom to make decisions that are right for me and the courage to follow through. With each choice I make, I gain poise and confidence. With every step I take, I have faith I'm moving in the direction of my unfolding good, and this I know, and so it is. Kind of all talking about knowledge and wisdom today through love, prosperity of knowledge, leading to wisdom. The four ways of knowing what you may ask. Prosperity of knowledge, like I just said, and that leads to wisdom. And I think it's kind of fun and healthy to explore many things that come into your life with different levels of mind. It's up to you to decide what you're exploring, of course, but a good start is knowing through divine mind action that no matter what happens, we are the divine within, called by some, more traditionally, children of God, right? And I think that's what Jesus referred to as the kingdom of heaven, or kingdom of God within, when he said in Luke, neither shall they say, look here, look there, for behold, the kingdom of God is within you. And as we say in unity, that's the divine within. A little more unity metaphysics from co-founder Charles Fillmore. Our most important study is our own mind. Not only the intellectual mind, but the spiritual mind. Know thyself was inscribed on the temple of Apollo at Delphi, and it must be inscribed on our own temple, over the door of our mind. That's from Keep a True Lent. Know thyself, know who you and what you are, where you come from, what you're doing here, where you're going. If you want to know all this, how? Well, I meditate. How about meditating upon the I am? And we're going to do that shortly, I'm sure. So, you're probably wondering, what does four ways of knowing mean? The four ways of knowing is also called the four functions of consciousness. And that concept was originally created by the famous Swiss psychologist and psychiatrist Carl Jung. And I've got to give credit where credit is certainly due here. There's a Unity minister in Colorado, Suzanne Carter, who's also a therapist, psychologist, who did some writing about this so beautifully. It inspired me to write that song, which became the talk. So it was really eloquent. Now you're probably wondering, what are these four functions of consciousness, or four ways of knowing? And I think it sounds better to, four functions of consciousness. Nah. On the song, I think four ways of knowing flows better, right? And both terms are used, but they mean the same thing. I just think one's better for a song than the other. Yes?
Functions.
What?
I was just right, you used four functions.
Functions of consciousness.
Okay.
That was Jung's first term, but he also said four ways of knowing. Of course, there's translations and stuff, but I don't want to diverge here, but it is four ways of knowing. And these four ways, and you might have heard me sing that if you were listening close to the song. And let's get a little deeper though. Thinking, and that's to do with our beliefs, our thoughts leading to beliefs, our intellect, our cognitive abilities. And that's commonly associated with things going on in your head, right? Usually, is how we associate it. Intuiting is the second one, and that has to do with our deep, deep inner knowing. Something we really don't consciously think about where it comes from. Because if you do, it becomes thinking, right? Sensing, that's bodily knowing, as in gut level knowing. It's related to intuiting for sure, but it's in a body awareness way. You get a gut instinct. And when you do into intuitive stuff, you sometimes will just do it, because my intuition told me to do it. But gut level is also another way of sensing, and it's using more body senses. We associate five senses.
And of course, the last one is feeling, using our emotions and feelings. And speaking of emotions, I think people like to spiritualize emotions a lot, and I don't think that helps, honestly. And I think sometimes it's unnecessary, or most of the time. I call that also spiritual bypassing. I'm sure you've probably heard that before. Our emotions are part of our God-given ability, right? To understand ourselves, to connect with ourselves, connect with others, and our divine connection to God. And that's our connection to the awareness of the divine within each and every one of us. And that's the oneness we sang about earlier. Keep that in mind, so to speak. But emotions are healthy. And since we're made in the image and likeness of the divine, would it not be part of our feeling nature? Wouldn't that be part and parcel of who we are, right? Who we are. Regarding these four functions, or four ways of knowing, the healthiest persons generally will have a good balance between all four. The challenge today, and I think we all will agree, that the mighty intellect dominates the way we get information a lot of the time about ourselves and others. And I used to live out of my head way too much. I don't know, it just, which is, the way of looking things through the brainy intellectual way. And it's good to develop that, but they all four need to be developed. But research has shown recently, or in the last 20 years or so, the energy that is mind, and we all know we're all energy. Even matter is energy in some form. It exists. The energy that we call mind exists throughout our body. It expresses throughout that, particularly in the heart and the solar plexus area, right? I'm sure some of you have heard of heart math, right?
Yeah,
The beautiful writings and fascinating, very detailed stuff written by, for example, Greg Braden and the Heart Math Institute. It's deep, deep stuff. But the heart is, there's brain in your heart, so to speak. It's mind in your heart, not brain. Your brain's here as a physical organ. But and it really does change our focus in how we approach things that happen in your life, such as tensions, problems, conflicts that come up, events. And like we say, follow your heart. And that's a pretty weighty thing to say, but it's true. One way I found that's beneficial and interesting in dealing with situations or tensions that come up, and this is real recent this has come up, that's one reason I'm writing about this, because it's a good thing, is something called the 5-second check-in. Not to be confused with the 5-second rule, when you drop some food on the floor, you got 5 seconds, you can still eat it. No, that's nothing to do with that. But do it with me. Let's do this. This is the 5-second check-in. Say you have a tension that came into your life, or an argument or something, and you have to resolve, and instead of just like, just overreacting, whatever, take a pause. Just pause. Put a hand on your heart. Doesn't matter which one. I put one on my solar plexus too. Take a deep breath. And ask yourself, what am I feeling? What am I needing? What is mine to say or to hold? In other words, not to say. And just sit with that for 5 seconds, 10. You can do it in 5, sometimes I take 10. But I've tried this when I've had an argument with a friend or a loved one, or something comes up, or I'm real stressed out about a schedule thing that I just can't get resolved or something. Just take that break. It really is. That can turn into your I am meditation after a point, but it really does help settle that in your mind. And your mind, y'all, not just mind, right? All four of them. Ways of thinking. Now I find this a wonderful way of tuning up my emotional intelligence, and that's something I was very poor at for many years. And I think a lot of guys are, generally speaking, your emotional intelligence. That seems we can be a little bit back on that sometimes, and I think it's really wonderful that a lot of people are awakening to that. It also helps with self-awareness. Awareness being key to dealing with any tension or conflict. But this is practical stuff, I think. And it's no wonder that Unity, its former name, what was it? Unity School of Practical Christianity, right? It really is. It's stuff in your life. I mean, there's a lot of really, really much more what some people in traditional Christianity might think is way out spiritual stuff. Like there's a lot of us believe in reincarnation, all this other stuff, and the divine within and all that. But it's a practical application of things.
You use it.
You use it in your
that
life,
is.
and that makes your lives better. Makes you more aware. If you're more aware of your divine within, and you use these 4 levels of mind to ways of knowing anything you're working with, it certainly can be a more practical way of moving through your life. And let's get real for a moment. Not everything is Pollyanna. I mean, there is sort of, and I think in some spiritual communities, a tendency to think that negative emotions should be avoided at all costs. I don't think so, myself. I think it's a way of, even at the risk of avoiding truth, you know? I mean, we all do, we're dealing with this yesterday a lot. I mean, facing truth, you're gonna have to bring up negative stuff. And sometimes negative emotions are part of it, right? Now, I don't think we should ever focus on fear. Certainly not the fear that's the opposite of love. That creates, and we're seeing way too much of that too, divisiveness and running in fear and making people do things from an aspect of being controlled, and they shouldn't be doing that. But these other emotions are valid. There is a place for fear to get you out of danger sometimes, to make you act on something. That is a form of it. So, and also there's a place for sadness when you've had a loss. You have to deal with it, you face it, you process it. There's also anger. If somebody's crossed, your boundaries have been violated, you're gonna experience anger. Not to say that you're gonna live with it and make it part of the way of your life, but that's another form of that spiritual bypass I was talking about. Just ignoring the negative and making it all, woo, 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 everything's okay, yeah. It's all love and light. Yes, what we have to get to, as long as we realize the joy and the love of connecting to our truest and most authentic self, the divine within, that's when we get to the heart of the matter. And sometimes you have to go through a lot of crap to get to it. Sometimes you encounter it. Use that 5-second rule, not the one on the floor. 5-second check-in, excuse me. I used to say that all the time to my kids. If it's on the floor 5 seconds, it depends on how much dog hair is on the floor, but that's another thing. Now, I was originally going to talk today about prosperity. That was actually my first thing before all this stuff came about in the 4 ways, but this really is, that's not too far off the mark here, because prosperity enters into so many things you have in your life, or don't have, as it were. And this is where I'm going. Using these 4 functions or 4 ways of knowing to move to a point of knowing and to knowledge. And what does knowledge lead to? Wisdom. And that's where we all want to end up. Prosperity can be a knowing that we have of what we want. For example, we all want abundance of something. Prosperity can be using these 4 ways to lead us to a state of knowing what we are, who we are, where we're going, what we want, and that level of knowledge can lead to wisdom. And you can kind of take a step back with that and realize the love you are when you have that wisdom. Wisdom, as you know, is one of the 12 powers of man, as written by Charles Fillmore for Unity. And I love this from Psalm. Teach us to our days that we may gain a heart of wisdom. That's a beautiful verse from Psalm. Doesn't require much metaphysical reinterpret on that one, I don't think. It's kind of like looking within to our divine mind in our heart in this knowledge that does lead to wisdom. And I believe Jesus' judgment and his wisdom went far beyond the perception and knowledge and judgment of even the most learned men of his day when he was living on the earth, because his faculty of knowing was developed by a conscious acquaintance with Source and a desire to express the wisdom of spirit. He never drew conclusions simply from intellectual knowledge, and certainly used all 4 functions of consciousness and more, I'm sure. Again, looking at wisdom as one of Fillmore's 12 powers, The center of it is associated with the faculty of wisdom, is the third chakra. Where does that sit? In the solar plexus we were just talking about, the solar plexus. And it's closely allied with the area behind the heart and stomach, and that's sometimes referred to as the body brain, interestingly enough. The color is yellow, and the syllable, if you ever do chanting in yoga, is Ram. I don't know if you ever heard the Lam, Vam, Ram to go on, but there's one associated with Ram. Anyway, unloving critical thoughts react particularly on the wisdom center in the solar plexus area and result physically often with ulcers, indigestion, other difficulties of the stomach area and heart. And on the other hand, when we learn to exercise that faculty of our own judgment, and not to be judging, but our own judgment and inner illumination of our own spirit, we'll automatically be experiencing a greater degree of physical health in that area. So, true knowing leads to wisdom. Now, it would not be a talk that I gave if I didn't do some sort of quote from, anyone know? Tao Te Ching. You got it. You guys listen to me sometimes, it's really cool.
Yeah. Go figure.
I've still got my tambourine on my left foot. Anyway, the Tao Te Ching has a good one on this is from verse 33. Knowing others is intelligence. Knowing yourself is true wisdom. Mastering others is strength. Mastering yourself is true power. If you realize that you have enough, you are truly rich. If you stay in the center and embrace death with your whole heart, you will endure forever. Now that last line's a little puzzling. The last line, death. But even when we transition out of our bodies, we're still carrying the same, since we believe, and I do anyway, we are spiritual beings living in a physical body. Divine mind is still within us as we go on our other journeys into oneness again. And one of the things that one, I think, would want to know deeply is one of the other powers, love, through these four ways of knowing. Knowing the love you are and becoming more aware of that love. And that's through self-love. The four ways of knowing, leading to wisdom and the knowledge of the love you are. Thank you for listening to that. I'm going to scoot down here and continue. And we're not done yet singing. I feel really musical today, so